Hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Duxbury. He's the Maltese Falcon. Woo. And this is...
Andy from Roland. Hello.
Oh man.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Andy, what have you brought? I really have no idea what you brought us.
That's cool. We've got the Fantom 6 in front of us, so the flagship Fantom range, but specifically we're talking about the Zyme model expansion. We've done quite a few different expansions for the Fantom since it's been out, so we kind of call it a platform synthesizer that's evolving. You know, we've always been developing new features, and we've done things like vintage model expansion, so the Jupiter 8, Juno 106, JX8P, SH101, we've had a look at those before with the Fantom O series. Obviously they're great sounding vintage synthesizers. The Zyme model expansion is something that we're looking, you know, sounds from the future, kind of like a modern synthesizer. So what kind of options can we have for creating different tones? If you're sound designing and you want something that's kind of like a little bit out of the ordinary, or you want something that goes in a few different directions, Zyme is an awesome synth for that.
You say a modern synthesizer. What constitutes that in your brain and in Roland's brain compared to those other ones?
So the vintage synthesizers, so like the Jupiter 8 Juno 106, which are based on traditional subtractive synthesis, which is where you sort of start with a waveform and you subtract elements from it, filter things out of it to sculpt the sound. Zyme is, we kind of call it a wave distortion synthesizer, because there's a few different elements which we'll show through now. So you can start with wavetables oscillators. You can actually draw your own waveform on the touchscreen, which is pretty cool. And we can do sort of phase modulation and shape modulation, step LFOs, apply some interesting effects, and just come up with some.
Well, should we do that?
Some sounds, yeah.
Should we fist bump?
What I've just got a few kind of scenes that I've prepared on here. Some with a few different layers. So we've got a few different layers of sounds that I've kind of split and arranged on here, and just to give you kind of an idea of what's going on.
It looks like a whole new world.
Yeah, it is.
Just visually, like this is the most distinct of all the plugins I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. And actually one thing that is quite cool with the Fantom flagship, so actually if you're using one of the models, if you use, say, something like, say, the Jupiter 8, they'll go orange to match that color scheme, and you see her on here, which is quite cool. See the graphics for the Jupiter 8, the Juno 106 is red, you've got green for the JX8P, grey for the SH101, and Zyme, which is the new one, we have this nice purple colour.
Oh, Dennis Pete loves it.
Which is really cool. Oh yeah, you would do it.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this, starting off with a simple sound, and then I've got some other kind of tones that come in with it as well. You do some quite interesting kind of soundscapes. So here's another example. So this has got, start off with two tones, which I'm layering and splitting, and I'll bring in a couple more. So again, but this first bass sound, this is just all one sound, but it's using this step LFO to modulate the sound. So it's cool, yeah. We'll get into like, you know, some designing some sounds and stuff now. But as I say, you can do lots of different cool things. So I mean, we've done stuff with like wavetable things. This sound, so this is using the drawing oscillator. So this is like a custom oscillator that's just been drawn in for this particular patch. Got a couple of layers going on again, but gives us quite sort of a thin kind of pokey sound to it. So. really great for soundscapes. But then if you want it to sound sort of quite nasty for sort of bass sounds.
Come on!
And for lead tones as well.
I want to shred on that so bad.
Yeah. But it just sounds, so you can make it sound, you know, as I say, sort of really sort of ambient and ethereal that we kind of before, but you can also make it sound really, really nasty. And anything in between.
Could you do anything like this before on here? Did you
Not
have
in
Wavetables synthesis?
No, not before. So not in the same way. I mean, obviously the Fantom is a really, really powerful platform in that it has, you know, multiple different synth engines, and you can layer up to 16 different tones together. But Zyme has really kind of opened up sort of the creative potential for some of these, I suppose, non-traditional kind of synthesizer sounds, which is quite good.
Yeah, and one of the things I've struggled with to demo before are wavetable synths. I don't really get it.
No, that's all
or
good.
I don't use it very much, and I get it. I've been slated whenever we do a Waldorf product, basically Waldorf stuff.
Right, okay.
When it comes in, and people are like, oh, you haven't got it. But then I look at the price of it, because I never really understood the price. I'm like, this is so much money. Because to me, I use Serum.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just use Serum.
Yeah.
But like, if you've got this, the hands-on control, and you're getting almost a whole new hardware instrument when you buy this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can, where do you buy this from?
So you can get this from Andertons, you know, so dare I say, click the link in the description.
Yeah, I know.
So,
yeah, but we do. Yeah, we're doing a lot more digital products
Yeah.
on there, so you can get it from. Which means you get the reward points. If you bought this from us, Captain Lee's pretty generous with the old reward points. You won't get that stuff on the interweb.
But the Zyme expansion is exclusive to the flagship Fantom range, so the Fantom 6, 7, and 8. So just bear that in mind. So it's not for the Fantom O series at the moment. So I've got like an initialized patch on here. And again, with the Fantom, what's really nice is because we've got hands-on controls, if I want to get into the menus, if I want to look at my oscillators, I just hit parameter, or, you know, it takes you straight to those screen. So you're not having to hit menu and go in through that way, which you can do if you want, but, you know, just saves a bit of time. This is an initialized patch, and with Zyme, you have two different types of oscillator that you can use. One is like a wavetable synth style, and one is the drawing oscillator. With the wavetable synth, in a very simple way to explain it is, so when you have, in traditional sort of subtractive synthesis, you might start with a saw wave or a square wave. What Wavetable allows you to do is use a more complex waveform. So you could use any kind of like weird sort of shape of audio, but you can also then scan through that table so you can find very specific points, and it just allows you to get very kind of like different sounding tones that you might not be able to get. And we have a choice of 64 different wavetables. So this one is just a sine, and I can morph through the waveform or use this slider. So this is going all the way from a sine wave up to a saw wave. But as I change through here, you'll hear like different kind of tones. So we can use any of these kind of things. So let's say this waveform, which is FM octave mod, and you can see it's a more complex sort of waveform. I mean, we have other ones which are different kind of shapes, so say this. Crazy kind of tones. I can adjust the position naturally. I can have that adjusted by, say, the LFO. If I just want a little bit of modulation moving through that waveform. And we have two oscillators, so I can blend it with a second one. Let's bring this in. So just starting with like a waveform like this, and you can have that sort of layer controlled by, you know, a pitch envelope or anything for different modulation. So this is starting with a more complex waveform than you would do with normal synthesis. But then our next section that we move on to for modulation is we have a phase modulation section and a shape modulation. So with phase modulation, if you imagine pulse width modulation on a square wave, which allows you to sort of shrink and expand the square wave, phase modulation is kind of a similar thing, but it works for any waveform, the whole kind of thing. So I can adjust that, but we can also have this done automatically by different shapes. So,
Oh, come on.
different speeds. I can change the size of it if I just want a little bit. But we can choose loads of different shapes out of this. My personal favourite, the Roland logo.
Oh, come on.
Or whatever you like. And then as well as phase modulation, we have shape modulation. It's kind of a way of sort of distorting and mangling the sound, but based on different algorithms. So as I hit different tables, you can get different nasty kind of things, and again, different shapes. So that we can... So if you're into like sort of more evolving kind of sounds, that's really, really cool. The next stage you go through this one is we have step LFOs and modulation things. So we can do a few things with this. You can add a, if you want, you could add like a step kick to it. So as we play it, this will... Or if we wanted to, we could take off different steps so it's running in a rhythmic system. Or we can run through things, we can do modulation for the oscillator and the filter. So let's say if I go to the oscillator on here, draw in any kind of like particular pattern, and this is going to sort of now change the pitch. And that just sounds like a bit of noise, but we can put a scale on it. So if you could put things in like harmonic minor scales or stuff. So let me just make this a little bit more subtle. And then I can apply another step LFO for the filter. So let's do this. I'm just going to take it off the amp. I can draw in different curves as well, so I can sort of create some crazy stuff. So to kind of give an example of this, one of the patches I was playing before, so this bass sound.
You can always predict what's going to happen by the screen.
Yeah. As it's going through, you can see so that the filter is changing the pitch of the oscillator, but then also it's changing the filter at the same time in this shape. So I could go into here, change that to a different curve. Yeah. And I can change the number of steps. So say if I just wanted to do 3 steps round and round. Change the rate of it so it's going faster. So you can really kind of like make some interesting tones. If you're into sound design, I think for players in particular who like to sort of create sort of big landscapes of sound where there's lots of different elements going on and things, I think it's wicked for that.
And a layman, like I'm getting it.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I struggle with. I get it. I can sit before I do a video and Google Waldorf Iridium, but it never came across as accessible.
Yeah.
And I love how all the because it's the modulations for me. I was like, well, what do I modulate to get that sound? Where you've already kind of made some of those decisions, even though I'm sure you can choose whatever you want. But I love these preset modulations, the visual nature, and I bet that live. The changing the steps live with the CV out, I bet the modular heads will go crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. In the standard Zencore synth engine, you have 2 step LFOs that you can do some of that stuff as well. It goes a little bit further in the Zyme engine, which is cool.
Very cool.
The other thing we didn't talk about was the drawing oscillator. So we looked at the sort of starting with a wavetable, but if we go to our drawing oscillator, so we're starting with a sine wave, and I can draw something else in.
Just invent an oscillator.
Yeah. whatever you want. We have a couple of drawing tools at the bottom here which can sort of help you, draw things. So if you wanted something a bit more traditional, so I can sort of make it sound a bit like a saw wave, or change the form, add a bit of sync. Yeah. And then from this, we can still alter it in the same way that you would do a subtracted synth. So we can go to our filter section. We have different types of filter. Like all of the other synth engines, these are all high resolution controls, so 1024 steps, really, really smooth. We've got different types of filter. I could apply a Jupiter filter to it. Again, we've got our synth controls on the front here. We have in the effects section a custom effect called spread, which is kind of like a unison effect. So if let's put 12 voices on this one. I can even apply sort of a delay to that.
Beautiful.
And we can add additional effects. Let's add some modulation delay to this as well. So. And any time then we can go back to the drawing oscillator, change the waveform, alter the feel of the sound, go back into shape.
Nice chords, man.
Yeah, thanks. So just for creating sounds and being sort of really, really precise, it's wicked. You can go crazy with it. I mean, some of the stuff we were showing before, if you really get into the step LFO modulation and you want it to sound all over the place and wacky, you can do that. But if you just want things that are a little bit more subtle, this is quite a nice big sort of pad sound that's cinematic. Sound huge like that, which is good.
I'm trying to not get too excited.
Have
you ever seen a video I've done with Andrew? I get slated because they're like, who's the gimp in the hat getting too excited? So I'm not. I think that's a beautiful demo.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
But
thank you. I'm not excited. Inside, I will mute my excitement.
I think it's all the coffee, So
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about with the Fantom is you can use it in so many different ways. You've used it live, it's got pianos, it's got organs, it's got strings and everything like that. I think as a synthesizer, in a way, it's a little bit underrated because we have all of these different synth engines and you can combine up to 16 different sounds at one time for different layers. So this is a little demo on here. I have got, if I just nip to my zone view, I have a sound that's from using the normal Zencore synth engine. And then we've got another one which is using the soundtrack preset from the JX8P, which you can hear the hiss from the chorus going on already. And then also I've got one for Zyme. So we're combining these three different synth engines, like one at a time. I'll start with just the Zencore and then we'll bring in the other ones. That's combining three different synth engines. If you're into sound design and you want, some bit of movement, a few things going on like that isn't possible with sort of standard synth engines, it's really, really wicked for that. It's great.
That was like the whole history of Roland in one patch.
Exactly.
It felt. I swear, even with my lame ears, I would blindfold test and be like, "That's Roland."
Yeah.
In the coolest way. That was a beautiful sound, man.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks so much for being here, mate.
No worries.
Thank you, mate.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, links below how to get this from us, and look out for all the other videos I've done with Andy. We've been doing these videos for years. Thank you, Falcon. Also, we've got to remind people, we're unbelievably edging towards 100,000 subscribers.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Subscribe.
And then you get some free stuff and buy threads.
Oh, nice.
I've got to give them these by the Capitan.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really, really
so we're
nice.
selling clothes now. I wonder what will be next. We'll see. Real estate on Malta?
You never know.
You never know. Thanks, have a good year. Bye.
Bye.